Welcome to Words of Wisdom and Guidance. Here we talk about change and healing, and this podcast will deliver sessions that delve into breaking free from limiting beliefs, negative narratives, developing tools and guidance for you to overcome challenges. It'll offer insights and inspiration and guidance from many others, mentors and coaches and authors and specialists and experts. They all have stories to share. There'll be moments that will open your eyes, that you will touch your heart, and there will be moments you will actually hear that resonate so deeply on many levels with you. And as intended, it'll bring you that freedom for healing and change. Welcome to the podcast, and welcome to Mark Hutfield.
Thank you, Deborah, or Debbie. Shall I call you Debbie?
Debbie is great. Deb to my friends, Mark.
Deb, wow, yeah, it's definitely going to be Deb then, because you're the type of person that you just connect with straight away. You know, your personality is so powerful and natural. So I think it's definitely Deb.
Oh, thank you, Mark. That's so lovely. And Mark is a nutrition and lifestyle coach. I've asked him to come on my podcast today because, like he said, we have met a couple of times, and he really resonated with me. His passion, his deep passion in how he wants to make transformative change for people, helping people to make that change, but not from on the outside, but from the inside out. And that is something that I am so big on, because I don't know if you know this, Mark, but I mean, I'm just going to tell you anyway. I am a Buddhist as well, and my Buddhist faith is a Nichiren Daishonin Buddhist faith, which is about you shining your light within so that everything happens on the external. So for me, it is a real resonance when I started talking to you and how your thought pattern is, how you think about things. And what you've achieved yourself. So, Mark, you're a seven-time Ironman runner? What do you call it? A champion?
Yeah. 7 times full distance Ironman. So Ironman is
It's
the longest
amazing.
triathlon that you can do. So it's just to break it down. So it's just under a 4 kilometer sea swim, followed by 180 kilometers on the bike, which can be on really hilly environments. And then you've got to run a marathon straight after it. It's actually, the equivalent of it, if you think about swimming the Bristol Channel, then you cycle from Bristol to London, and then you run the London Marathon. So and you've got you've got to do all in one day within 17 hours. So
That
that's
is
not,
amazing.
yeah.
Absolutely amazing. And you have done this, is this all over the world? Or I know you're going very soon to do another Ironman somewhere, aren't you?
Yeah, and that's one of the things I talk about on this podcast as well. Actually, it's never too late, because I did my first Ironman at the age of 53. It was only my second triathlon. I'd only ever done Carmarthen Sprint Tri just before it, which was 16 lengths in a 25-meter pool, 20k bike, and just a 5k run. I did that in March 2016, and then my next one was Ironman Wales. So don't overthink things. Anything's possible, So, but in answer to your question, yes. So I've done 7 in total, all different places. So I've been to Mexico, Italy, Barcelona, Copenhagen recently, Lanzarote, UK also, and I'm doing Venice Jesolo actually which is near Venice, 2 weeks on Saturday. That's a half Ironman, which is like the ones they have in Swansea, is a half Ironman. And my most recent one I did was in Copenhagen at the age of 62, which was last year. So I've got lots of goals ahead. So any of your listeners who are of an older age, who are thinking, oh, or maybe they're thinking they're old at 40, because, or even,
Yeah,
I'm going to be 63 shortly. So think again.
that's
You can do anything
amazing.
at any time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That is mind over matter, isn't it? That is what
Yeah.
your principle is all about. Definitely. But
Uh-huh.
let's go back, rewind. Mark the person. Mark, what were you like as a child? Were you always into fitness and nutrition and healthy, or what were you like? Or your parents? What's your background?
Yeah. So I'm from Chester originally, and lived in Swansea since '97. But yeah, grew up in Chester. Um, my background lived on a nice, middle sort of middle class housing estate, I guess, just standard estate with lots of friends nearby. We'd be out pretty much every day, from the age of 4 or 5, just playing, doing different things. In that era, of course, it wasn't about phones and apps and all the rest of it.
No,
Everything you had to make
no.
your own entertainment.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, just enjoyed being happy, enjoying life. Didn't really have a strong understanding of what life was like when you sort of hit 16, hit the working environment, 16, 17. So that came to me as a bit of a, not shock was the word. I mean, I adapted to it, but I've always, maybe I've been a slower developer in some ways because I've just enjoyed where I'm at, and actually left school without any qualifications at all. And I don't think it wasn't because I wasn't intelligent. It was really because I didn't understand the importance of it, and I was just out playing with my mates all the time. Yeah, so it was a happy childhood. I was from a family who probably didn't really instill. It was about knowing your place, really. And I ended up doing an apprenticeship with Shell UK at the age of 16, and I was there for 13 years on the biggest petrochemical refinery in Europe. So it wasn't a family where anybody went to university, or education wasn't thought of as something that was ready for me to take that route. But I must admit, I felt that there was something there, and I was kind of on the wrong path when I took this apprentice route, and I was a mechanical fitter for 13 or 14 years, but didn't really enjoy it, on
Yeah.
this
Well, when
discussion.
was that pivotal moment going fast forward to the adult? And you had this sort of at 16, but you kind of were doing as you're told. You're doing as was expected, probably
Mhm.
that type of feel. And but you knew it wasn't what you were going to end up doing. So, at what
Yeah.
point, where was that sort of pivotal moment again in adulthood, where you went, I've got to either go and get educated, or I've got to educate myself in a different part. Where was it? What was happening?
Yeah, yeah. Great question. And first of all, as well, I want to make the point that, a lot of in those days, younger people might hear old people say talking about the old days, how we used to I used to cycle like 10 miles to work. It was raining and wind, all those kind of stories. But for me, I'd only turned 16 2 months earlier, and I'd gone from sort of school playing environment with my friends to suddenly starting this 4-year apprenticeship with 42 other apprentices. Didn't know any of them at all, but some were from like Liverpool, Birkenhead, Merseyside, different places. It was a 40-hour week, and I did have to cycle there 7 miles each way
Wow.
every day. I was on £28.72 a week. And it's strange what you remember from those days. I even remember my personnel number, from those days. But I think it was just a case of get on and do it, and I wasn't really happy in that environment. But it was expected, and it was about sort of getting a job, settling down, and trying to plan for the future. But that environment was because I was working with like older guys, which I mean I'm 62 now. I was working with guys who were like 60, 55. So it was real step change in the environment. And I did it for 13 or 14 years. But
Wow.
in answer to your question, and I wasn't happy in that period work-wise, Debbie, as well, just to let you know, really, I enjoyed my time with my friends and all the things that we did, but within the work environment, wasn't really enjoying it particularly. And it was quite a drinking culture as well. So,
Right.
going out, clubbing it,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. I
a
can
lot of it was
imagine.
around alcohol, and it wasn't really for me, to be honest. And I never really agreed with me. But I was in that environment. But in answer to your question, what was the pivot? Well, I developed like an illness. I started to lose sense of touch in my fingers, in my toes, and to the point where I could touch a hot cup and it wouldn't feel hot, but
Wow.
and it was like numb kind of feeling. And I used to play guitar in bands in those days as well. I've always been into music, so going back, saw loads and loads of bands, play guitar. I had to stop playing guitar, because I couldn't do that. So I went to they sent me to a neurological clinic or hospital in Manchester for a week. So I had a battery of tests. But my mindset also, when I had that kind of illness, it was all almost like, oh, it'll go away. Don't worry about it. Don't think about it too much. I carried on probably for several, maybe a couple of months, for 3 or 4 months, with that sort of condition without kind of just thinking it was like a trapped nerve or something. But when I saw the doctor, I was sent to the hospital the day, pretty much straight away, the day later. So I was tested, and that coincided. I didn't have MS, thank God. And it's not a nice thing for, and I feel for those people who have it, but they are adapting, But I had those symptoms, and I had lots of battery tests, lumbar puncture, and all the rest of it. But that situation coincided with voluntary severance, but also layoffs. People were being made redundant as well. It was Shell. I was working for Shell. So not only was I had that illness and I was on steroids and started to improve gradually, but I was made redundant at that same time. So kind of a low point, just lost my job, lost all my income, and I had this illness. But I stayed positive, and I just saw it maybe as a different as an opportunity to make a step change. And I got lots of these later on in my life as well, where maybe adverse situations, I've looked at it, scoured it, and made a decision that's kind of given me a step change or different direction. So I was made redundant. I had some voluntary severance money. I bought a house as well when I was working for Shell. So I did have a house and a mortgage. But I thought, well, why don't I take the education route? And I did start to get better, by the way, gradually with the course of steroids, although I did have the symptoms to varying degrees for maybe 2 or 3 years. But I decided to do a high national diploma. So interesting enough, when I was an apprentice, we did an ordinary national diploma, and I kind of failed lots of the courses, didn't do well, didn't take it that seriously. Again, it was all that mindset of enjoying myself, really. But when I had my HND later on, because I knew I had to get this right. This was just kind of a serious sort of point now where I'd lost my job, I'd got this illness. What was I going to do? So I took it seriously, and I suddenly started to apply myself in a completely different way, and looked at life in a different way.
So how old were you? Sort of 30s then, early 30s, I suppose, is that? Somewhere
Yeah,
around there,
so
yeah.
yes, yeah, I would have been 30 when I
Yeah.
started my HND. It was full time at a college there for 2 years. And as I got into that HND, I was putting the time in, I was getting really good grades. It was in mechanical engineering, so it wasn't like an easy route. And I was applying myself. Always knew I had something, but I didn't know when I was working at Shell. I was frustrated. I was in an environment I wasn't happy in, but I didn't know, what was going wrong and all the rest of it. So I think it's because I had talents and ability, but they weren't being realized. So my environment was wrong, my relationships were wrong. And interesting enough, I'll talk about my business as well later. The key pillars in my business, which include environment and relationships, because the pillars in my model that I use now are based on my life experiences, really. So I would say, yeah, I took it seriously. I was enjoying it. And then I thought, well, I'm going to get HND, after 2 years. Well, is that enough? What about a degree? And bear in mind, I'm coming from a family where nobody had ever been to university. So suddenly I was kind of breaking the mold as well. And I've kind of had that mindset as well. I don't necessarily think in the box in the way that many people do. As you know, Joy is Nigerian. Many people would think, well, that's a challenging kind of relationship from the outside. But for me, people are people, and a beautiful personality, and equally she's with a white guy, So, but it's just about being around people who you like being with,
Yeah.
race or culture. It's a real positive to embrace all those things. So I've always had that kind of mindset of not being stereotypical, and
Nice.
I've not let people impose on me, and also any negativity around me. Maybe it's family or people saying you shouldn't do this or you shouldn't do that or that's not for you. For me, that's fuel. I use it as a fuel, and using good insight to get you the right direction as well. But use that energy, in a positive way, not as frustration, but use it as a power. So I did my HND. I thought, well, what about doing a degree? And so I applied for a degree at University of Liverpool at the Red Brick University there, mechanical engineering. And I was told I could go in straight into year two of a 3-year degree, but I had to get 13, I think, out of 15 modules, 13 distinctions in my HND, or 13 out of 17, I think it was. And actually, I ended up getting 15 distinctions out of 17. I was motivated and inspired. And also Joy, my wife, we mentioned Joy earlier. She encouraged me. She'd been to university, so suddenly I had that kind of reference point.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
message to people listening as well is your environment is very important. Don't let people define you or tell you can or can't do. And if that environment's not working, change that environment. Be around people who will lift you up
Yeah,
and
yeah.
find out what your purpose is really. So yeah, I did a degree then after the 2 years, and actually so I was commuting from Chester to Liverpool. Again, I was putting a lot of time in, hours in, doing my studies, taking it really seriously, and I got straight into year two. I went from a class in my HND of only like 10 or 11 of us. Suddenly, I walked into this big lecture theatre with about 110 people there who were like maybe 12, 13, 14 years younger than me, but I just made relationships and worked hard and ended up getting the 2-1. So I think there was only something like 13 out of the 110 who even got 2-1, so really pleased with that. So, and the journey went on from there, really. But
It's
that's,
amazing. That's
yeah.
amazing. I mean, you just sort of mentioning the fact that you've got a 2-1. I mean, that is pride for
Hmm.
sure. It's not ego, it's pride. You can hear that pride in the way you describe your whole sort of journey of your 2 years with the HND, and the fact that at times you obviously felt, a bit out of your comfort zone, out of your depth, younger people, whatever so you said it's about really taking that leap of faith. But a lot of people listening would say, how? How
Hmm.
do I do that? Because, you did just mention change your environment, change the
Hmm.
people in your environment. Don't listen to people. That's all very well and good, but people will still say, but how do I do that? There's a
Hmm.
fear there when people say how. What
Hmm.
sort of things would you say to that?
Yeah. So I think the key point as well is that you can change at any time of your life. So that's an important message for your listeners. Don't think, oh, I'm 30 now, it's too late. So I've just demonstrated it's not. And when I spoke about Ironman, in my 50s, it's never too late. So first of all, don't think you've missed the boat. But in answer to your question, you have to be healthy to start with. So
Nice.
when I
Yeah.
talk about the five pillars in what my business is called Mind in Motion, which we can talk about in a moment. But I've got five pillars which I've drawn on my life experiences. So they are energy, relationships, growth, purpose, and identity. So all of these are figured. So I would say, in answer to your question, you've got to be healthy to start with. So I started getting better sleep. I wasn't really drinking alcohol. You've got to you've got to start the day early. For me, it doesn't work well if you think, oh, I'll start studying at 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock. Too many disturbances or too many reasons to do something else, something different. So starting early in the day, I think it's being motivated. So because suddenly I had a new direction, I'm doing a degree. If you take you back to when I was working at Shell, I was frustrated. The job was kind of depressing, really. It wasn't for me. And I know many people in that job felt the same way, but they kind of stuck with it really, and it's frustrating. But and maybe started drinking as well to kind of numb some of that pain.
Yep.
But for
Yep.
me,
That is what
yeah,
a lot of people do, don't they? Yeah.
yeah. But I was on a new path, Debbie, and I didn't know where I was going to end up career-wise or job-wise. But I was inspired, I was motivated. I knew there were people around me, friends who thought I couldn't achieve or it wasn't for me, and some friends who I had at that time, they weren't encouraging me or they didn't really believe it was for me. So I wouldn't say I withdrew from them, but I spent less time around them and I was making new friends in university, people. So I think it's important to have people around you who can lift you up and inspire you and have a different benchmark, a different level. Um, what I think an important thing around mindset generally as well is to be around people who can lift you up, not people who will pull you down or who are negative. So I think it's starting early, being healthy, being motivated. So you've got a purpose, you're on the right path. A good analogy that I use as well, Deb, is ladder on a wall. So is your ladder leaning on the right wall? People can be climbing well, but they're in the wrong job or they're heading in the wrong direction. So they're climbing
I
well,
like that. Yes.
yeah,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
that
yeah.
ladder's on the wrong wall. So it's better to have your ladder on the right wall and to be lower down on it than high up on the wrong wall where you're just frustrated and where are you heading really? So I think, yeah, for me, I just put a lot of hours in. I studied a lot when I was on the train going to Liverpool, I would read my notes, read my book. I would use the time productively. I'd still have a balanced life and enjoy myself. But it's knowing that to achieve something, you have to put the time in as well.
Yeah, time and effort.
Mm,
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that. I love that idea of that ladder on the wall. Because,
mm,
even people that are high up on the ladder, they may have, a lot of material gain and they, sort of feel like they're at the pinnacle of their careers and what have you. But they're not necessarily going to be emotionally fulfilled and happy. And that really is the wall, isn't it?
yeah,
So I
yeah,
think that's very important to recognize. Absolutely.
hmm
All right,
yeah,
mind in motion coaching. I mean, I just obviously, well, I don't know, pivotal moments, things. When this came to you, bing, we
yeah,
have those moments. I guess the fact of the matter, 2016, I think you said, was the first time you really did an Ironman.
mm,
So that just before that and what have you, we were doing some triathlons and things like that, and you were
yeah,
obviously a fit man to
mm,
a point, but you decided to raise that bar. You decided to
hmm
find a different wall to put your ladder against.
mm,
And while you're out there amongst all these people, these athletes, people that externally are
hmm
doing a wondrous job of their lives,
mm,
looks like, I
mm,
guess you got a lot of feeling that there was a inner something people missed. There was something that needed
hmm
to be addressed. Was that what was the story or?
Yeah, 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 absolutely. Great question. And it's kind of probably come back a bit from that point as well, Deb, because it's evolved really. I spoke about energy and exercise and the like, and that's kind of one thing I'll talk about in a moment as well is like small habits which compound over time, and you may not necessarily even know where it'll take you, but it's having those right habits. So, because when I graduated, that's actually what brought us down to Swansea. So I graduated with my mechanical engineering degree, and I don't know if you've ever seen the film Sliding Doors. Maybe many people, the younger audience, probably haven't heard it, but Sliding Doors is about those key moments in life. The Sliding Doors is based on a tube train in London, and it's about how a person's life transpires in one direction. If they just make it before that door slides and closes, they've got on the train, their life takes a certain route. The other route, they don't make it. The door just closes before they get onto the train, and their life goes in a different direction. So I very much believe in those moments of kind of sliding doors and taking opportunities. Like we ended up in Swansea because I actually went to, and if you remember that they call it the milk round
Yes.
in
Yeah.
universities
Yeah.
so I went to Liverpool. I could have opted not to do that. And if I'd opted not to go on that milk round, which is where basically employers or like kind of have stands and stalls and graduates go there and they interface and find opportunities. When I did that, I went there to Liverpool, decided to go from Chester to travel there. And that's how I got my job with British Steel. So I went through the interviews and the like, and that's what brought us down to South Wales. There's a big culture of triathlon in South Wales, and I think South Wales as well is a fantastic place. I find it very inspirational. People are very, like yourself as well, very dynamic, very supportive. Maybe in Chester is a little bit more insular, but that was like a sliding door moment. I could have opted not to go to that milk round, and we wouldn't have been in Wales because they have Ironman Wales, and it's very sporty. And I was inspired by my former boss at Welsh Water, who'd done Ironman Wales, and he kind of inspired me. So I want to make the point, those sliding door moments where they can swing your life in this direction or that direction. Sometimes they're random, you don't know where they are, but sometimes you can make them happen as well. So, if people can take certain actions or habits or change their environment, they're having those key moments which will take them in a completely different direction than if they hadn't done it. And I'll also talk to you all day, Deb. So I'm trying to
Keep
I could
going.
talk to you all day. But we came to South Wales, but just going back slightly because I've had a very long career. I've worked as a consultant in procurement, in supply chain with some of the biggest companies in the world. I did a master's degree as well in Cardiff at Cardiff Business School. But I've worked as a consultant, for Diageo, for Greco, GlaxoSmithKline, worked with Welsh Water, British Steel. I've worked in the automotive industry. I've traveled the world, been to Russia, Ukraine, South Korea, US, many occasions.
Oh,
So interestingly enough, if I hadn't been made redundant at Shell at that time,
yeah.
maybe would have still been there, or maybe I think I probably would have left at some point. But by making those changes at that point in time, the compound effect, those small steps versus where I am now, are massive. So I think that's a one message really key, or one of the key messages is start making those small steps, small decisions, and
Yeah.
it's a longer journey, But in my career in procurement and as a consultant, so what I found made a big difference for me was exercise in the morning. Getting up early in the morning, that's something I stand by massively to make the day happen the way you want it to. Take control of the day as opposed to just rolling out of bed just before work or just before uni or whatever, where you're not prepared. You kind of don't even want to be there because you've been hitting your snooze button and things happen to you in the way you don't want, but it doesn't have to be that way. Take control of the day. So I started doing a little bit of exercise probably around about 97, 98. I just go to, I found going to in fact, it was a Marriott hotel in Swansea. I used to live on the marina, so I used to go there and just have a little bit of a swim, just do 10 minutes on the bike, a little bit of strength and conditioning. But what I was finding was by going in there and also using the sauna and steam room as well, getting in there for 6 or 6:15 in the morning, I was loving it, spend an hour in there. So you're not thinking about work too much. You get up thinking about that nice environment. And it was the cardio, it was getting the blood flow. It was bringing my mind alive, and actually I was getting great ideas. I was able to think about the day ahead, how I was going to plan it, how I was going to approach it. So when I went into work, I'd walk through the door, and many people there, not criticizing anybody for a second, but they just kind of rolled out of bed, didn't want to be there, but I was ready to go. I was on fire. I was up early. I was prepared. Um, and that was equal on a Monday morning as well. I was ready to go, and I was only doing like 10 or 15 minutes on the bike, but that really worked for me. And that's a key component that accelerated my career in terms of the consultancy and all the different things I did. And it's like a superpower. But I wasn't going into work telling people I was getting up at 6, telling them I was going to the gym. Nobody knew what I was doing. I might mention I was going to the gym, but I didn't talk about it. I'm a firm believer in actions speak for people, not what they say. Lots of people will say things, but it's doing really, and people will see the benefits from the outcomes of your actions, in the work environment and things that you achieve. So yeah, and that sort of 10 or 15 minutes on the bike would evolve to maybe 20, 25, doing a little bit of a swim. And interesting enough, I would run as well, but I had a knee problem. So this is later in my career, I had to wear special shoes, with padding as well to help. But and this is when I was going to the gym. So what I started doing, well, okay, what about swimming then? So I started swimming and cycling. So don't let something happen in your life and say, I can't continue anymore. I'll stop doing that. I
Yeah,
found
you're
another
finding
way.
alternatives
Yeah,
to
always
keep.
find another way.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
honestly. So yeah, in answer to your question, Deb, so Ironman, seriously, doing Ironman is just a byproduct of doing exercise in the morning, small habits. When I talk about small habits compounding, that's a brilliant example of just doing like 10 or 15 minutes on the bike, and that was it in the morning, taking it easy, to doing a full Ironman many years later.
Well, it's this sort of concept of mind, body, soul. The three areas of us as human beings, of human entity, if you
Mm,
like. You're talking about, energy a lot of the time, that has to work in for your mind to work really well so that you're on it, you're ready for work, you're ready for the game, you're ready for whatever,
mm,
you're ready to start. And the body energy is about keeping the motivation going to keep going. If you can't do that because of an injury, then you keep going. And then the soul is, I guess, that deeper sort of emotion of happiness, of
yeah.
finding that you really, really love it because everything's working well.
Mm,
And so you're happy. And then it's that sort of continuous spiral of that, really, isn't it?
mm,
Backwards and forwards.
mm,
You're happy, so your body's happy, so you're happy.
mm,
It's just everything sort of works that way, doesn't
mhm.
it? So
It
mind
does.
in motion is about really believing in that deep internal trigger.
Yes. Yeah, it is absolutely those key components. So when we talk about energy, I stopped drinking alcohol nearly 13 years ago now. I didn't drink a lot, probably drank more, as many do when you're a lot younger. But it's never agreed with me. So I stopped drinking when I was 50, and I'm different personalities really. For me, I think maybe I'm an all or nothing in a way. So for me, I couldn't just like reduce consumption, just stop. So I just stopped it and I started drinking soda and lime. But that benefited me a lot. Just number one, alcohol. Yes, people talk about alcohol or they say, oh yeah, you don't drink too much, just reduce your consumption. And that's fine if it works for somebody, but I'm not really a believer in that. I think it doesn't add any value. You'll soon find that you can actually go to social environments and not drink. I used to drink soda and lime with ice, used to love it, and you just feel better. Just visualize those hangovers in the morning when you're out having a good time, and you might soon think, do I really want to drink?
100%. I did that
Yeah,
25 years ago. So
right. Well done.
exactly
Yeah.
the same thing.
Mm,
Recognized I didn't need alcohol to make me have a good to help me to have a good time,
yeah.
to make me feel relaxed. I could do that all by myself. I didn't need
Yeah.
alcohol as a crutch.
Yeah. Yeah. And a part of that, Deb, as well, of course, is relationships and environment. If you're around people, because you go out drinking socially, and suddenly you stop drinking, and people are saying to you, what's wrong with you? You're boring. Why aren't you drinking, and all the rest of it. Well, they need to change their mindset. But you can go out with them and not have alcohol, but equally, maybe it's time. It's because you're in the wrong environment. You need to evolve that environment and different relationships with more like-minded people or people who can lift you in the right direction that's more suited to you.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when you're on that starting line, ready to run, ready to start the Iron Man, all of
Mm,
those other hundreds of people are also in the same mindset. They've also done the same work. They've also, but you know, it's the ones that dig that little bit deeper, that are have gone that little bit further, and that has have really changed inherently that I don't know, the will
mm.
to get through that whole
Yes.
effort, are the
Yeah.
ones that sort of come out with the right times and do all of the things in the correct way. Well, that is definitely a mindset shift, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And you have to do the work. You need to start it at the right time. You need to plan. I am a believer in planning, not to the nth degree, because I think you need some flexibility. You need to enjoy the journey. But for that vision, you need like I had a coach, and I'm qualified now as a British triathlon coach as well as an Ironman qualified coach. But people who want to do those activities have a coach or get the right knowledge and insight. So yeah, for Deb, you can't just turn up and kind of blag it on the day. And I think that's the same in life in general. I think that's why I stand so much about early morning starts. Somebody you can get up at 6 in the morning, 5:30 in the morning if you need to. We need 7 to 9 hours sleep. You can go to bed at 5 o'clock, and you can go to bed at 10 o'clock at night and still get those 7 hours in, or go slightly early. And also, Deb, give you an example, in my consultancy career, sometimes it's easier on. Other times your work is really intensive and really pressured. And I know a lot of your students will be in those situations. They'll burn the candle at both ends. But I've had times where a few occasions where I've got up at half 2 in the morning to do because I need to prepare for negotiation or whatever it is I'm doing on that day, and I just need to find time to do it. And maybe I'm too tired to do any more in the evening, but I've been to bed like 8 o'clock at night and get up at 2 or 9 o'clock, get up at 2 o'clock. And it's amazing how fast it goes between 2 and 7, but how productive you are. No distractions. Also, I worked in Cornwall in one of my jobs as a consultant. Also worked in Plymouth for 3 years. I used to I used to get up at believe it or not, I'd get up at half 2 on a Monday morning to travel to Cornwall. So I'd have a long weekend with my family, get up at 2:30. I would travel to Cornwall 240 miles, but I wouldn't go straight into work. I'd actually go to a gym it was called the Carnbury Leisure Centre in Cornwall. So I'd travel 240 miles Monday morning. I'd go into the gym, I'd swim, do some exercise, sauna, steam room, and then I'd be in the office for 8 o'clock in the morning. I might feel a bit tired later on in the day, but actually, no, that gym, that workout got me through it, and I'd catch up on the sleep on the Monday night as well. But I think the message there is that people shouldn't think in the way that everybody else does. People will think I can't do that, or you can't do this, or days now often I'll hear people say I can't do that. Well, I always say to people, you can, or anything's possible, and they kind of look at me in a strange way sometimes. And my children, as they've grown up, and my wife, that's constantly telling people you can. And if people say I can't do that, they need to add a few words to it. They should say, up until now, I haven't been able to do that. You know,
Yeah.
you can do
Changes
anything.
that very radically. That does, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, Ironman, and I've had a lot of challenges as well, Deb, on Ironman. For example, Ironman Lanzarote, it's the toughest in the world because it's about nearly 3,000 meters of climb. The sea is choppy, it's very hot, and it's a tough run as well. And on the year I did it, I think it was 2022, there was only 30% people didn't complete it. I think maybe 32%.
Wow.
And I actually completed it and I also did an extra 16 kilometers on the bike. I missed a turning on the bike. So the swim was really tough.
No
Like,
way.
yeah. So just an example for people, I was 80 kilometers in on the bike and I missed a turning. It was a point where I was suddenly around professional riders who were well ahead. They kind of done a loop further on. So I'd missed a turning, but I was still had cyclists around me. But thought a bit strange. They're all like going really fast. These are like pros. And he was going downhill of a hill I'd already been up about 45 minutes earlier. And I thought, am I on the wrong road? Is it the correct road? I didn't turn back in case I was going the right way. I ended up going 8 kilometers down this hill the wrong direction until somebody told me, yeah, you've missed a turn, mate. You've got to turn around. So I had to turn back and go up a hill. I'd only done 80 kilometers. I got another 100 to go. So here I was, nearly an hour later, 45 minutes later, going up this hill, wind against me that I'd already been up earlier. So I went back and had to ask people what the direction was. Took me a while. I ended up doing the extra 16 kilometers, and I just thought, well, I do think many people would have packed it in at that point or not bothered, but I
I was
just
going to
think,
say many would have given up,
yeah,
given up,
like,
but you didn't give up. And that is, testament to that mind over matter, that mindset of, I don't need to give up. I'm quite capable of continuing this. I can do this. I've worked for it. I know what I need to do to achieve
yeah,
this the end result. But also fundamentally you must enjoy it. You must love what you're doing. I mean, you would, anything we want to do, we must love it, to keep putting in the effort. I mean,
yeah,
people listening now to you, I mean, I'm not going to go out and run and do an Ironman. I'm going to hold my hand up to that, Mark. Definitely not something that would be on my agenda. But the concept of, that sort of, digging deep and being able to really believe and trust and have faith in yourself and
mm,
having the courage and bravery
mm,
to keep going no matter what, that is what I want to bed in. That's where
mm,
I would want to make sure of, because if you do find yourself going down the wrong path, the wrong hill, or going up the
mm,
wrong hill, or missing a turn, let's just say,
yeah,
you've got to
yeah,
have that sense of conviction, you know
yeah, 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 definitely. I think a number one, Deb, as well, of course, I was 80 kilometers in, so I've still got to get back anyway. Um, so I thought, well, but they call them the sweeper vehicles. So if you miss the cutoffs during the ride, they actually pull you out anyway and take you back. But yeah, exactly that. I thought, well, if I missed a cut off, I missed a cut off, but I'm going to give it everything to get back. And I was out actually out on the bike for about 8 hours 40 minutes just on that bike, and I just about made the cut off to start the run, and my back there was actually in bits because I've been on leaning over on the tri bars on the bike for so long, and my back was curved over for 32 kilometers of that marathon run. And believe it or not, my wife Joy, and my daughter Lauren were over with me. And Lauren, she ran roadside along me, encouraging me, come on, Dad, you can do it, keep going, Dad. She ran with me for 20 kilometers,
Wow.
yeah, honestly. And Joy ran with me for about 10 kilometers. So yeah, to answer your question as well, Deb, it's like, who are you doing it for, really, isn't it? You're trying to inspire people. I was trying to inspire my family, my children, as well, for myself, sense of achievement as well, of course. But lot of it's about proving, or showing to my family anything's possible, anything can be achieved. And I kept going on the run. I think many people thought, well, why are you continuing on the run? But I kept going. I believed in it. And the cutoff was 17 hours. If you miss 17 hours, then you don't get the medal. You're not classified as an Ironman. And I made it in 16 hours, 48 minutes. So
Wow. That is incredible. That is incredible.
yeah,
What a story. That is incredible. Well done, you. Well done. That's
thanks.
amazing. Right, let's just finish off then by talking about your program.
Yeah,
This wonderful mind and motion coaching program that you have developed.
yeah,
And you said it's going to be, I think you said launching September.
yeah,
It's a
yeah. I've got a
six-week program. Am I right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. So I do it individually as well, but I've got a group cohort session. So between 10, 13, or 14 people will be on that. And that's a 6-week program, like you say. So it's based around identity, awareness, environment, habits, people's energy in terms of movement, energy in terms of recovery, sleep and nutrition, about direction. So I spoke about ladder on the right wall and focus, is your effort in the right direction? And all that leading into the identity. So it's about somebody who wants to reset their life. You could be 72, you could be 17 or 18, trying to find your direction. So it's based on all the things I've spoken about, those life experiences, what works for me. So I built this model, which is around energy growth, which is direction as well, relationships, environment, and purpose, which is your vision and direction, meaningful goals. And all of it, Deb, is about being happy. We should strive to be happy, to be healthy, to impact those around us in a positive way. We want to be happy and positive. So it's all around that. So yeah, in answer to your question as well, so that's in September, but I also do it individually. So if anybody wants to engage with me on a one-to-one around
Okay.
this program, they can do it at any time. They can reach out to me directly through social media, Mark Hutfield on social media, or through my website, which is Mark Hutfield Mind in Motion Coaching, or they can email me at I'm just looking at my email now, so it's M Hutfield at Mind in Motion Coaching, all one word, .co.uk. So that's M Hutfield at mindinmotioncoaching.co.uk. And in parallel with that, Deb, I also do endurance sport, triathlon coaching, or just running, strength and conditioning. So I'm qualified as an Ironman and British triathlon coach as well. So yes, you might not want to do an Ironman, Deb, but if you could do Swansea Triathlon.
I'm not a runner. I'm not going to lie. I've never been a runner, but I love a walk. But
Brilliant. That's great. Yeah.
I am going to. I am definitely going to join your program because I said to you before, haven't I? I just love this whole concept, and I really, I want to be part of that, and I can talk about it a lot more and what have you. But can I
Brilliant.
just ask as well? Obviously, it's not just a certain age range. Obviously, you talk very much about sort of the later ages. Don't think you're too old to start all of that. But I mean, we do have younger people listening.
Mm.
And again, and what about children? Do you have anything to do with that? How does that work?
Yeah, so I am working with some younger people as well, but I'm very keen to work with people at university or college. Maybe they think they're on the wrong path, they're not sure what direction they want to take. They've got people around them saying, this is for you, that's not for you, and you feel like it's not working, or maybe they're not happy on their course, or they're not feeling healthy. They're getting pulled into an environment that's not really working for them. So, like I say, well, I stopped my consultancy working in procurement consultancy work only last November. So, Mind in Motion is new. So, it started back end of last year. So, I've got coaches now already. But very keen to work with younger people or older people, anybody of any age, really, Deb, to be honest.
And it is online.
Online, yeah, or if somebody wants to meet face to face, I can do
Okay.
that. And if you
Yeah.
wanted me to speak to any of your students at university on any of your courses, happy to do that,
Yeah.
so face to face or in groups
Yeah.
as well. What I'm very keen to do and I'm inspired to do, what brings me a lot of value is to inspire young people,
Yeah.
help young people, and
Yeah.
let them know that literally anything is possible. They can
Well,
achieve anything.
exactly. I mean, look,
Mhm.
your experience at 16, and, you knew that you hadn't made that right choice. Something in your gut was telling you, but, circumstances are circumstances. And I think, it's about giving people that opportunity to say, I can be flexible, I can make changes. I like the way you sort of said, but, when that sliding door opens, let the sliding door open, get in, go on the train, get,
Yeah,
and also the ladder up against the wall, it's all very
yeah,
well. Don't keep climbing if you feel that that wall is not supporting you anymore. Don't do
yes.
it, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, most definitely. 100%.
Yeah, right. So I think that is just amazing. You've inspired me so much today. Thank you so much. It's lovely, always lovely talking to you, Mark. Really is,
Brilliant.
really, really is. So I think for everyone listening, it's about living with power. It's about
Mhm.
living with that power internally, with that guidance, with the knowing, of your journey, what you want out of your journey, really, no matter what age. You can
Yeah.
start. Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
joining us.
Loved it. Thanks very much, Deb. Take care.
You
Bye.
take care. Bye bye.